What's going on, guys? TeeChurch here. I'm here with Captor today, and we wanted to come together, bring you guys a special video titled "What is a Coach?" So him and I are just going to basically be having a short form conversation about our responsibilities, our duties, the things that we look for in players, the things that we look to help them improve, how we help them improve, all that kind of stuff for you guys. So just to get started, Captor, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
So I'm a coach. I've been coaching professional players for about a year and 4 or 5 months through their seasons and grand finals. And yeah, I guess today we're going to be having a little talk about what it is we do as coaches, and kind of what to expect when you're working with a coach. Or yeah, I mean, I guess that's mainly it, right? What
Yeah,
to expect
exactly.
from a coach.
Exactly. So when you are working with players, I mean, what does your general process look like, or what is your, well, let's start here. Let's start with what does it mean to you to be a coach?
It's working with players, identifying what they're good at and what they're bad at, and helping them become consistently good in as many scenarios as possible so that whatever randomness comes up in the game, they're ready for it. And when you can prevent randomness, you do, and you plan so that things are as little RNG as possible.
Right,
I think
right.
that's kind of the outline of my role.
Right. Yeah, yeah, I totally agree with you. And I know for me personally, I mean, a lot of times these players, especially at like the highest levels, they really, really understand certain aspects of the game, but maybe they don't have like a full game strategy, or they're lacking in one particular aspect of their game. So helping them kind of even that out and iron them out a lot of times helps. They're surprised by how much it really like helps their placements and their consistency, right? Because like when you're at the top level, like the consistency in your placements is really what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean the players at the top have placed well before,
Right.
but maybe aren't placing first every tournament, and it's
Exactly.
how can we look at getting nearer to that goal for them?
Yeah. So when you are kind of like going through players' mistakes with them, I mean, what does that process look like? I mean, how much do you utilize VOD reviewing? How much are you looking at players' own games versus maybe like you see patterns in other pros' gameplay that might be able to help them out? Practicing with them, playing arena with them. I mean, what does your process look like?
I think the kind of process I take has changed from season to season, just
Okay.
based on what I find works and what doesn't. So what I did last season, I might not repeat to the same extent this season.
Right.
Um, it's sometimes it kind of depends on the player. Sometimes a player's reaching out because they know what their weak points are, and they're
Yep.
saying, "Hi, I really need help with this,"
Yep.
because we know what our weak points are, but we can't fix it.
Yep.
Like super bad at playing surge and rotating second zone or whatever, but I don't know how. Help me.
Yep.
And then you maybe don't have to go digging for how to help them, but actually you're doing lots of research and vodding other players and other tournaments and other games as well as their games to figure out
So you
better ways to do what they do.
Right, so you can kind of find like specific examples of like, hey, you tell me that you struggle with max distance third and fourth zones, right? So like those critical mid game zones where it's like we need to pull off this rotate and we need to put ourselves in a good position so that we can continue to pick up our surge, or maybe like shift to a more center position if that would be like beneficial for us at the time. You could go and just pull VODs from other pros and say like, hey, this is how Yamzo and Jamper did this. You can try to emulate this. Like these are
That's
the
the easiest.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the easiest way it goes.
right,
They present a mistake and you show a game from someone who knows the answer.
right,
But oftentimes there isn't an answer that exists. Maybe everyone makes the same mistake. You see lots of different people doing quote unquote good rotate, but it costs them a lot of map.
Yep.
And you kind of have to think of new strategies.
Yep.
You have to be the first person to actually find a solution to that problem. That's
Right.
what that I think that's the big game changer with a good coach, maybe compared
Yep.
to someone who's not so experienced.
Yeah.
Instead of just plucking things from other players, you know, kind of making things yourself. It's definitely a big one.
Well, yeah, that was gonna be, you know, one of my questions is what do you think separates coaches? Because I think that's a big thing for people who are looking to work with a coach to kind of parse out, and then also to be able to judge like monetary value, right? Like, there's not like we as coaches, to a certain extent, we get to set our own prices, but
No, we do. We definitely do.
well, it's
For
also
every
but it's also determined by market value, right? Like, these kids aren't going to be paying more than like what they're making from the game, you know, to get a coach, right? Like, that doesn't make sense. So it is
They're not
limited,
going
but
to be paying more than. Well, actually, that depends. I think actually that does depend
oh, it definitely
because
depends
a
on the
zero
level
earner
of
might
player.
be
I think,
willing.
yeah, I agree with you.
A zero earner might be willing to put money forward. Even someone who's made 5,000 or 6,000 might be willing to put a hefty amount of money forward to increase their skill. Of course, a tier 1 player with 300k earned is not going to pay 300k for a coach,
Exactly.
but they might be paying the coach per month more than they make per month. That
Right.
happens with a few people I know.
Yeah. That's definitely possible. You know, with Fortnite being the game that it is, and being so dependent on consistency to earn. You know, there's those guys out there that they're just fringe earn players. You know what I mean? Like, one week they, you know, they get their 200, their 400, whatever it is, and then, you know, the next week they don't, and then the next week they do. So, you know, those guys are definitely out there, and I could definitely
Yeah,
see, you know, how situations like that would occur,
yeah.
which is, you know, very, very interesting. But I also, you know, I also don't think that, you know, somebody who's never worked with a coach before is going to go hit up Sven and pay his prices, you know,
Yeah,
because it's,
unlikely.
and I don't, I also,
Unless they've got a friend who's got a great experience,
of
or
course, of course.
there has to be a reason for that.
Yeah, so just to kind of continue on the line of like what, you know, like you said, kind of being able to be on the edge of game theory, and to be one of those people that are like developing that. What do you think it takes in terms of like work ethic to get there, right? Because you really have to have an evolved understanding of the game to be able to theory craft and come up with new ideas or better ideas than the ones that are currently being implemented. So, like, what do you think someone is, you know, what the process that someone would have to go through in order to become that person?
Kind of speaking to coaches, you mean,
Right.
like this, because a normal player might not theory craft so much.
Of course. Yeah, this is more so specifically to coaches and just to give insight
Yeah,
into, because the way that we think about the game is different than the way that the players think about the game. You know, there's definitely like overlaps and similarities, but a lot of times coaches are going to be a little bit more analytical, right? Like, we spend a lot of
yeah.
time, you know, reviewing VODs and trying to figure out why people are doing the things that they're doing and what the consequences of certain actions are. So, um,
Well, I mean, I think to be able to get to that level, you have to have completely mastered understanding the game as it is.
right. Agreed. Yeah, no, 100%
I
agree.
think to think of anything new, I think you have to understand what is.
Of
I
course.
think with anything, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I
I
think
guess you could
that's,
apply that to anything.
yeah, no, I think
You
that's
can't
universal across life. Yeah, that's a good
you
point.
can't teach elite players things that no elite player has ever seen before
Right.
if you don't understand what every elite player does, how they play, what they do, how the game works. Like, you have to have a very good fundamental and technical experience and knowledge of the game to be thinking about things that these players who have played for 5 or 6 years don't know. You
Exactly.
know, to pinpoint things that they've never heard before
Yeah. It's incredibly
is
difficult.
difficult.
Yeah. No, it's incredibly
It's
difficult. I
hard.
mean, because these guys, you know, a lot of them
I mean,
do
they
work.
live the game,
Yeah.
most of these guys.
No,
Yeah.
it's actually insane. I mean, that was one of the biggest things as soon as I stepped into the coaching world and I was exposed to a lot of these players was I noticed is like it isn't just the fact that they're playing the game all the time. Like, they eat, sleep, and breathe Fortnite. Like, if they're not playing the game, they're watching a stream. If they're not watching a stream, they're watching a YouTube video. If they're not watching a YouTube video, they're working on their mechanics. Like, it's just this constant cycle of like, you know, being completely engulfed in the game, you know, and
Yeah,
setting
you
it as
could
your
really be
highest
on it
priority,
forever.
essentially.
Yeah, for
In
sure.
some form, yeah, you could be learning pretty much all day. So,
Yeah, oh yeah, you could learn all day, every day, and there would always be something more or something
but
different
that's
apply.
that's the beauty of the game, though, right? Is that there's always something new to learn, and I think that kind of makes it like I think it makes it a great game for developing relationships with players too, especially just to be kind of like a mentor outside of Fortnite as well, because you and I were, and this is typically the role that coaches fall into, typically old, you know, a little bit older, more experienced in life, you know, gone through a lot of the hardships that these guys are going to go through over the next, you know, 3 to 5 years, and can help guide them through that. I think that's a really important part of coaching that maybe a lot of people miss out on. You know, I think there's definitely value in that.
Yeah.
Before we end the video, though, I do want to talk to you a little bit about live coaching and what players should expect out of live coaching, because I get the sense when players are asking me to live coach them that it's almost this expectation of like I'll be able to totally elevate their performance just because I'm live coaching them, and it's a lot of them don't realize that it's not exactly like that. Like you have to develop a certain comfort with players in order to be an effective live coach, in my opinion.
Without question, life coaching is better if you have worked with the player before
Right.
in strategy and decision making, because as much as what you say in live coaching might be good, if a player's never heard that before or never done that way of playing before,
Exactly.
it's really confusing.
Exactly.
If players have never played left side of a moving zone, as a random example,
Right.
and you're randomly in endgame and they're not even thinking about sides of a zone, they're just building,
Yep.
and then you say go left, if anything, it can actually make their lives harder.
Yeah,
So it
because
depends on the player, it depends on their experience, because if you get live coach a few times, maybe you kind of understand it.
yep.
Um, and yeah, there is an expectation that you can kind of be in there and completely control the game.
Yeah.
You can control the decisions, but you can't control the actions, is the bigger thing. I can
100%.
make someone go left or right or up or down or stay there or not stay there or hold that heel, but you can't make someone good at tarping in a live session,
Exactly.
because it's all too fast to have an impact on that. So two good fraggers, for example, with fundamental understanding, are coachable, because if they understand what you're talking about,
Yep.
even if none of them are leaders, you can lead them and you can actually
Exactly.
speak for the whole game.
Yep.
But
And that's a lot of
maybe
fun.
less experienced players
That's a lot of
doesn't.
fun. Like I've experienced that. I'm sure you have a little bit too, where it's like, you get to kind of sit in the driver's seat as the coach. That's always a fun experience.
Yeah, yeah, it can be fun. Can be pretty stressful.
Oh, it's definitely stressful, but I mean, I think we both are, I think we both enjoy the challenge. We definitely would rise to the occasion. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I think that there's kind of this almost like mysticism around life coaching, um, where it's like, oh, like I could just instantly help this player get better. No work put in prior. It's like I just don't even like doing that anymore, because it's if you don't have the at least the familiarity with the player, it could be incredibly difficult, like you said, and can even be more detrimental to their game, because they have to take in excess information and try to process that, and it takes their focus away from what's actually going on around them.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So yeah,
You gotta pick the right people and ideally spend time with them before
yep,
you live coach them,
yep.
for sure.
All right, man. Well, thank you for your time, Captor. It's always a pleasure speaking to you. Like I said, I always value your insights from these conversations, and I'm sure that the people that watch this video will too. So.
Yeah, it was cool